What's up, Pats fans? We're back. Pat's Tailgate Party Podcast. Apologize for sounding the way I do. I've been battling the flu for 4 days, but still brave enough and strong enough with the support of these guys to get on here and talk to you about the disaster that we watched in Las Vegas last week. We got to have a podcast about that. Took a break last week, but we're back. I don't know what episode it is. We were all a bit rattled by watching. There you go. Andrew's background says it all. Michael Lakis is my name. You can find me at Boston Sports Journal as a fan, as a member. Pats, Sox, Celts, Brews. If you haven't gone to Boston Sports Journal, serious plug, you need to get on. It's the Greg Bedard puts on the best Patriots and Boston sports coverage that you can find. You need to get on there. BostonSportsJournal.com. We're all members, and we'll go around the horn and see how everybody's doing. Andrew, we'll start with you. You change your background to a literal dumpster fire and turn your hat backwards, Ken Griffey Jr. style. How are you doing, buddy?
Good, guys. It's good to be with you. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't thought much about the Patriots since Sunday at about 8 p.m. because that's not true. I talked to Mike and Dad late, so maybe 9:30 on Sunday night. And since that point, I've kind of just moved on. I'm like in true Belichick fashion, it's like on to 2023.
Yep.
So here we are.
Dad, we'll go to you. How are you?
Good, guys. Happy holidays, everybody. Coach Radamas on BSJ, and I haven't given a lot of thought really this week either, although I did listen to the two podcasts, Cattles and Bedard, and then I listened to Bedard on Felger and Maz, so do have a little bit of ammunition.
Oh, man.
Okay, good.
Mike Davis, you got under construction behind you. We told you earlier before the pre-show to change that to implosion. Maybe a Miley Cyrus wrecking ball or something behind you. I don't know. How are you?
Andrew took care of the backdrop for us.
Ooh, boy.
I'm Mike and Stoneham, and I'm going to challenge everybody who is already a BSJ member. Go ahead and buy somebody a gift subscription this holiday season. Go. He's got a special going in. I think it's a great idea. And what better way to give somebody than a year's worth of enjoyment and analysis, and it's just a great place. And look, I met all these amazing people there at BSJ. So what more could you ask for?
It's awesome. Bill Donovan. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great. How's everybody else doing? Happy holidays to everybody. And if we don't pod next week, Happy New Year to everybody.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I'm more or less like everybody else. I watched the end of the game probably 5 times in a row and then shut it off and just didn't do anything. Basically just got sick.
Bill, your eye doctor, your optometrist, so you take better care of your eyes than that, man.
Wow, sir.
I'm telling you. So I'm going to start right out with one question. I hope you guys don't mind.
No, go for it.
Bring it.
Since I watched the end of that game so many times, I could have sworn Stevenson could have run out of bounds at the 30-yard line, and then the Patriots had one timeout left. They could have kicked a field goal to win the game. Am I not right?
I don't think they had any time, did they? Andrew, Dad, Bill?
Bill, I think there were only a few seconds when they started the play. I think the clock was at 0 for a while. Yeah.
They ran it with 4. Yeah, they ran it with 4 seconds, and he ran 20 yards. He would have had to go out of bounds like after 2 seconds, and I don't think they would have been in range. So.
Okay, but he did make it to the 30-yard line, correct?
He did.
Yeah.
20 to like 22.
Yeah.
Yep.
They almost 0-0-0 though, so it would have had to have been a defensive penalty to give him an extra play.
Bill,
so the best part of that whole thing is he ran 20 to the 30, and the interception was only a 47-yard interception for a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, Bill, if I would have known they would add more time, I would have bet the live field goal like I always do, because they got in the red zone or close to it. Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, so 2 thoughts on that. I mean, first of all, I think the official scoring is just a fumble return for a touchdown because it's backwards lateral.
Oh, yeah, definitely a fumble.
That's right.
I think if I'm correct, it was, I don't play year-long fantasy football anymore. I gave it up a few years ago, but I think it was the finals for year-long fantasy football.
No, it's not
how much.
Not the final. It was first round of the playoffs. First round of the playoffs.
So I'm wondering how many people's fantasy season either got continued or ended because Jacoby Myers threw a half-field backwards lateral that the Raiders defense took in for 10 points. Because I bet people played the Raiders defense because how bad the Patriots offense is.
Well, it's not only that, it's just the lateral play. I think earlier in the year, I won't rehash the whole thing, but we talked about like a same game parlay I lost for like $1,000 because Chase Claypool lost, 6 yards and he lost by like half a yard on a pitch play at the end of a Steelers game early. I don't understand the scoring, honestly, on how they do some of that stuff, but you're right. I mean, what about the betting implication? Because at that point, the game, I'm pretty sure the line going into that game were the Patriots favored? They were favored by 2, right?
I think it might have shifted by the time the game started. I can't remember. I have to go back and look.
But either way, you're up late in the game. You let up a touchdown. We can talk about that too. That's been a big conversation piece for the whole thing. And then that happens. I mean, so I don't think there was time for a field goal, Bill. To your point, I think it's a good question. I've heard it brought up. I think it's a really good question. I mean, let's just talk about the play. I mean, we obviously know it's disgusting, and we obviously know that it's yeah. Andrew, this is for you. I'm going to see if this works. We'll see if you guys can hear it. But this is how I felt on Sunday night. Let me see if this plays and if it works.
Everybody on? Good. Great. Grand. Wonderful. No yelling on the bus.
That's how I felt on Sunday. Good, great, grand, wonderful. I mean, it was like what terrible. But I mean,
I gotta be honest. I mean, here's all you need to know because we talk about this all the time. But what we try to offer and anyone who listens to this podcast is like the fans' perspective. We're all pretty sharp and know our thing and have thoughts on what they should do, shouldn't do. We always go to Coach Dad for X's and O's. We go to Mike for who should be the next coach and how the team should be run. I wax poetic about organizational philosophy and Mike and Bill make sure we actually stay on track. But you need to hear this story. We're sitting, I rush home from coaching basketball. I sit down. I'm already a little bit like, oh man, I missed the first game in years. They come back to take the lead. I'm sitting there going ahead and doing the math in my head. All right, I've sworn this team off all year, but 24-17, they look like they're going to win. All they got to do is win 2 more games and we get a playoff game. Who doesn't love a playoff game? I'm watching it with my 2 sons, my 7-year-old and my 11-year-old. The last play comes up and the 11-year-old Abe, who's pretty precocious, says, "What is Jacoby Myers doing? Oh, no, what? No." Watches Chandler Jones run in the end zone and looks to me and says, "I'm sorry, Dad." I said, "What did you do, son?" But that's what kind of next generation of fans we're raising here as Patriots fans, is that they feel like they have to apologize to their elders for what is happening on the field. Like, let that sink in for a minute, Bob Kraft, Jonathan Kraft, and Bill Belichick. My 11-year-old son felt like he needed to apologize for how awful that play was. And anytime an 11-year-old feels like, what in the world have I just watched? It was probably the worst last play in the history of the NFL.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that.
I was sitting there watching it and I'm thinking, okay, so they're first of all, irritated that they gave up the 81-yard touchdown drive in the last drive. Thinking, okay, they're going to go to overtime. Maybe see what happens in overtime. Maybe they win. Run the play, 1 lateral, 2 laterals, touchdown. And I just turned to Jody and I said, "Wow." That's all I could say. Wow. And it had to be Chandler Jones. I mean, the whole thing was just.
Oh, man. It was. The fact it was Chandler Jones was just, I'm trying to think of the right word for that.
Ironic.
Well, it is the definition of irony. That is true.
All right. So I have to ask honestly. So I'm watching it. I'm going, oh, no. Don't pitch it. And I'm like, oh, no, Myers, quit running backwards. Then he goes to throw it. And I'm like, oh, boy. Ball's in the air. I watched Chandler catch it. And I did have a momentary thought.
Oh, no.
okay, Max can make this tackle. You got to make that tackle. Like you're just going to grab a leg and you're going to hold on, but you got to make the tackle.
Andrew, the last thing I want Mac to do is make that tackle.
I need Max to make that tackle.
No.
He wasn't even close to
No, he wasn't
going to
make that tackle.
You got to make the tackle.
No.
You got to make.
First of all, shame on. Hold on. First of all, shame on Jacoby for putting Mac in that position. Your starting quarterback to make that tackle. What in God's name are you doing?
That's another issue. You not only are you throwing it 20 yards behind you, you're throwing it to the quarterback.
What are you doing?
What's he gonna do with it, even if he catches it?
So can I say this? Because Andrew, you brought this up, and then I have watched it like 400 times since you brought it up, because it is the epitome of the clown car careening into the ocean that this team is, which is when. Was it Myers or Stevenson when they start the pitch play? I watch Matt Patricia start clapping his hands on the sideline like he's excited about what is potentially to come in the next 5 seconds. And I'm like, what a careening clown car this is. Like literally what a disaster. If you have not seen it, go back and watch. And anybody on this call or on this podcast, any Pats fan out there, anybody that just likes comedy, really, go watch Matt Patricia. You'll see him for like a split second, and he's clapping and excited about what is to come after these pitches start. It is just an epic disaster on all fronts.
Well, for once, they ran the play the way he designed it. That's what he's clapping about.
He's the clown, the lead clown.
I mean, you go back and watch the thing that happened in Miami. I thought that might have been the worst playing football.
No.
Watching Gronkowski fall all over himself trying to tackle.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
They call that the Miami Miracle.
Yeah, that was
75 yards with the ball. But this was unbelievable.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Mike, go ahead. You've been quiet. You have been like, come on.
So, guys, they played it on there's a meme out there that's to the theme of Grandma got run over by a reindeer, and it's Mac got run over by a Chandler. If you get a chance to find it, it's hysterical. They're showing Chandler Jones trucking Mac Jones, and they play, they're singing Mac got run over by a Chandler to the tune of Grandma got run over by a reindeer. It's just hysterical.
I mean, I think we should have.
It's the height of the stupidity of the whole play.
Shouldn't we have, Andrew? This is your favorite. Shouldn't we have some background music while we're talking this play? Like, I feel like there should be some sort of clown car music or something in the background just while we're discussing this. I mean, literally, I want to play. I wish we could just go watch the highlight right now. I mean, this is just pure. I'm going to leave this just embedded behind while we're talking about it. That's how bad. That's how bad that is. I mean, what a friggin' nightmare. Like, literally, that's...
It could be worse. You could be a Bears fan, or you could be...
No, it can't be any worse. There's no, Mike.
No,
Mike, there's no worse.
That was worse than any play when they were known as the Patsies.
I mean...
And I'm dating myself. I'm going back to the 70s.
I mean, literally.
I tell you, I think... I don't know that there was anybody anywhere that had any inkling that was going to happen on that last play.
I mean, it was bad. Like,
well, but look, guys, Mike Davis, I don't disagree with you in that we're spoiled. We've had 20 years of greatness. This is what other teams deal with. I think the thing, before I stop thinking about the Patriots for the week for my own sanity, I think the thing that really hit me Sunday night, I think Bedard wrote about this, and he and Cattles talked about a little bit, is that, the play itself was just unbelievable. But it's the facts that we've been on at least 6 month, but really probably 2-year slow motion movement towards this train wreck. And there could not have been a more metaphorical,
that's the word,
moment
that
captures what we have watched this become than that play on Sunday night. If you wanted to say, okay, we're going to hire We're going to do years of bad drafting. We're going to spend 100 whatever million a year on free agents that will bust.
170.
We're going to not replace any of the offensive staff, and we're going to have Matt Patricia be the offensive coordinator and O-line coach, and Joe Judge be the quarterback's coach. And oh, by the way, we still haven't solved the defensive coordinating problem. And Belichick is stretched too thin. Like this entire organization has become an absolute mess, from the false starts to the penalties to the bad route running. Mike Davis, I'm going to get you started on that in a minute. We need like a Festivus style rant. And to watch it all come together in the worst end game play in the history of the NFL was like, well, shit, you don't need any more evidence. There it is.
No.
Boom. Like, okay, we're not all crazy.
There's a wrap to the podcast.
Yeah, one of you guys were saying it, right? You wanted to see these team bottom out, right? I was 100% in agreement with you. I'm with you, Mike. And I've been saying I wanted to see them lose. I wanted them to lose last week. I want them to lose.
Yeah,
Saturday.
me too.
I want them to go the rest of the season without winning a game, because if your son was apologizing to you, imagine what Jonathan was saying to his dad.
Well, he
had to look at Robert and say, Dad, I am so sorry. Why are you having to put up with this? You should be off enjoying yourself with your wife, and let me deal with this absolute dumpster fire.
Here's
send Bill off to go coach Navy in his golden years, and I'll clean this mess up.
Navy. Sorry, I'm just imagining a world where I watch a grumpy ass Bill Belichick in a cutoff hoodie in Annapolis running the triple option. Sorry, that just flipped.
His dad's footsteps, right?
That just flipped. Yep. That just flipped into my head, and I couldn't help but laugh. Here's the issue, Mike. Andrew and I talked about this on just a couple more thoughts here. We're gonna stay here as long as we need to. One thing, and I said this on our text thread, but I'll say it on here so the public can hear it. So there's one group of football teams that run that play on the end, because most people are like, why don't you take a knee and yada yada. And I got it. I don't know, man. Dad, this is probably where you probably want to jump in and tell me I'm wrong. I get you can get a penalty. I get all the chances of you getting an untime down there feel really, really low compared to what could happen in the opposite. So like the fact that it's like, oh, we're going to run a draw because somebody might hold, like officials don't call stuff there. They just don't. Like, that's just the way it shouldn't be the case. It's why in the Sunday night game, that same time, the guy for the Commanders got mugged in the end zone, and they didn't call anything because they don't call stuff late in the game like they do throughout the entire game. So the fact that they run a draw there, who runs a draw there, guys? Every college team in America that doesn't know how to get behind center and take a frigging knee. They run a draw because they continue to run plays. This is pro football. Get behind center and take a knee. Like, I don't understand even why they ran the play. The second piece, just while we go into how we experience this, I was driving back from Park City to Salt Lake City. I couldn't watch the game because I was driving, and only heard the TV audio while the play was happening. And all I heard was Kenny Albert say, "There's no Stanford band around." Oh no. What? And I'm thinking, I don't even know what's happening right now. Like, what's going on? And then I hear Chandler Jones takes it in, and I'm on a mountain. I'm swerved off the friggin' mountain. Like, literally, I don't know what's going on. And then I get back to the hotel and watch the thing. How do you run a play? Dad, do you run a draw there in high school, for goodness sake? Like, what in the God's name was that?
Oh, my draw. I think
I gotta say,
you can fumble a draw without even throwing it.
I don't have. They ran the draw. Okay, and it would have been fine had the two of them not lost their heads. The taking a knee, to me, is probably the best idea. You're going to go to overtime and see what happens, or you throw the Hail Mary, and that's a big deal. And then Belichick comes on.
Oh yeah.
Made me crazy afterwards. Mac doesn't have the arm to throw it to the end zone. Yes, he does have.
He just threw it out on the drive.
Just shut up with that stuff, Bill. No. Like, literally, shut up, Bill.
He's just getting even with Mac.
bigger
Matt's being a
concern,
little sissy.
a bigger
bitching about
concern
everything.
on the Hail Mary would have been, could they protect them long enough for him to step up and step into the throw? I mean, you know.
And can the receivers actually find the end zone?
No.
That's funny, Mike. That's funny.
No.
It's over there, guys. Run straight down.
They would have gone out of bounds at the 10.
Straight ahead.
The way they run routes these days, they would have been at about the 35-yard line when Mac needed to throw the ball in the Hail Mary. They'd have been jogging.
Did not turn around.
I just think the whole thing, you know, and we're just going crazy about this play, but
you have to.
You go back and watch, but as Andrew said, a great wrap up on the whole last 3 years. This thing starts in the first half, and they get first and goal at the 2. They run the ball one time to Stevenson, then they throw it 3 straight times. Mac loses his mind. He loses total composure, which that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, let's have it. What do you think about him losing composure?
I mean, it's got to stop. Grow up, man. I mean, you're in the NFL. I get it. I get you frustrated. I understand. Okay, there's a lot of things going wrong, and you know he knows in his own mind that he's gone backwards. I mean, but okay, you're at the 2-yard line now. You don't like the fact, okay, you missed the receiver and they ran the wrong route, and you throw a touchdown pass, the coach calls a timeout. Okay.
Oh, he ran
now calm down. And you go out there on 4th down. We need you in a good place. I mean, he doesn't even let Smith set. And there's 14 seconds left on the play clock. And he snaps the ball. I'm just thinking of
giddy.
I'm thinking to myself, and then it just goes on from there. You got he misses Myers down the middle of the field. As Andrew said, they run into one another. 2 receivers run into one another. Thornton's running the wrong route half the time. It just, and if you listen to Bedard all last week, he talked about all they had. They're going to win the game by running between the tackles, right? So, I mean, they rushed for 208 yards. So obviously, in the second half, when they decided to do that, it worked.
It was great.
So then you get to the end in the last drive. I mean, it's 4th and 10. They can't get off the field. I don't know. It's just
12-yard cushion on a 4th and 10.
What does anybody? Yeah, it's bad. Does anybody have a problem with the touchdown? I've heard that brought up a lot.
It's out of bounds. Yeah, it's out of bounds.
Yeah,
it's out of bounds.
Right.
But again, why did you end up there?
Yeah, I agree with Mike on this.
Why didn't you have 5 guys? Why weren't you on a 0 blitz there and take the guy down?
Yeah. God, and I tell you what, analytically, it drives me crazy. I mean, I get that you don't want to give up a 70-yard touchdown on 4th and 10 or whatever it is. At the same time, you can design for that. I mean, you can have 2 safeties high so that nobody's scoring, and you can jump short routes, and you send a blitz, because if they somehow score a touchdown there, you're getting the ball back with 1:45 in a tie game to go down and kick a field goal.
2 timeouts.
It literally increases your winning percentage. What does not is when you give them 15 yards and then another 20 on the next 2 plays, and now they're actually driving.
You have 1 Pro Bowler. He's going to the Pro Bowl because he is among the league leaders in sacks, and you're dropping him into coverage through the 4th quarter.
Well,
dropping him to go cover the tight ends on those cases instead of sending him after the quarterback.
I'm
really surprising you, Coach. Let's see. I'm not going to send the guy who's the top sack guy. I'm going to drop.
Oh, look, you got to get it. The dollar, the commercial with the guy. Can you get it? Like, it's just, they run some of the dumbest crap I've ever seen. Like, it's so stupid.
So they're rushing. You need to rush 5 there, but you need to bring, like Andrew said, you need to bring Uche and Judon now off the edge. Let's go. They bumped the tight ends. Wait a minute. So now I'm taking 2 seconds before I get them into the pass rush.
By the way, and Bedard.
If the tight end catches the ball down the middle of the field, good, because now the clock's running.
About to say. I mean, this is what Greg wrote about. Like, where do you want, when a team has no timeouts, where do you want them to catch the ball? In the middle of the field.
And don't give him time to make the longer throw. Get there.
I mean, it's just.
Hey, guys,
how many times was Barmore absolutely being mugged inside and they weren't throwing it? Like, there was one play, and you literally can see Barmore. He's trying to get through, and somebody's draped over him. But that goes to your point, Mike. They weren't going to throw that flag.
No,
Barmore was
man.
getting mugged on the inside.
Of course,
they had to have a sack to win the game. I'm just going to on that.
Hey guys, I want to bring up a stat here. I heard Judon played 52 snaps and did not appear on the stat sheet. Yeah. No blocks, no tackles, no interceptions, no nothing. 52 snaps he played.
Bill, yeah, I mean, that's because he was running. Yeah, he's running this play right here. He's running the.
Oh, you almost had it. You got to be quicker than that.
He was running the dollar bill play, Bill. No, you almost had it. I'm in coverage. Ooh, like they just run some dumb shit, man. Like literally, I am so irritated when I watch them do things that look smart that aren't. Like they are so like it's just gross. Some of the stuff that Mike, you're exactly right. Man. Judon and coverage, really? Like he's a pass rusher. What do you get him out of coverage?
My original point, and this is one we've talked about for 2 years now, not a new original thought, but just to hammer home the point. And I'm going to tie it to two things. First of all, what does anyone know in an organization? It doesn't even have to be a sports team. When you can't do the fundamental basics right as a team, then you've got to get the fundamental basics right. Because when you try to do next level strategy, got to have the fundamentals right. Second of all, what do we know about organizational cultures? Yes, I completely agree. I am with Bedard. I would have benched Mac at halftime. You can't do that. He lost his mind. When he's losing his mind, it shows up on the field. Mm-hmm. At the same time, let's not treat the symptom. Let's treat the disease here. You have a second-year quarterback losing his mind and not being a leader because you've created a toxic mess like this thing behind me all across your organization. So, of course, your 24-year-old is not learning the right lessons. It's what made the Spurs great. It's what made the Lakers and the Celtics great. It's what made the Patriots great. Yep. It's what makes the Steelers when they're great, is that you build a culture, and from everything that culture blossoms. You can handle mistakes. You can handle learning moments. There are no learning moments with this team because there are more mistakes and breakdowns than there are breakthroughs. I'm a Mac guy, you know this. Honestly, at this point, they should trade him to the Raiders. The Raiders will be in the Super Bowl in the next 3 years.
Yep.
And we'll start again. Maybe we could start again with Sean Payton and Tom Brady, which wouldn't be the end of the world.
Buddy, hold on now. Don't segue too early now. Easy now.
Sean Payton and Tom Brady, and I'm okay.
Hairs are standing up on the old neck there.
Well, Tom might be off the cliff. We might not want Tom for another 2 years, but I might at least need to see Tom play quarterback. That could bring me back. I'd
take Tom next year. Oh yeah.
But
absolutely.
This idea that we can judge anything about Mac's play in the season or his leadership is just nothing could be further from the truth. You've got no read on him. You have no idea if he's going to be a good quarterback or not.
I totally agree. And I think that the culture, as good as it was for 20 years, has now absolutely imploded. And to the point where I think leadership, locker room leadership, which they always had, and they did, I think, with Andrews and McCourty and those guys, they're not buying in. I mean, those guys McCourty came off the field the other day after that touchdown pass to the tight end in the red zone. He threw his helmet.
You know why?
His helmet on the ground.
You know why?
Because the coaches
ran a cover 0.
That's right.
What are you? Hold on. We were talking earlier about bringing people and dropping people back. So no. When it's 20 and goal, You don't run a cover zero. I watched, last time I watched cover zero that imploded like that, Ellis Hobbs, Plaxico Burress, 2007. Just as shitty of a call then as it wasn't. The only problem is it was in the Super Bowl. You don't run that there. You run that there, like that there. To your point, Andrew, if you're going to run it where you get the ball back with 1:30 seconds, not with 20 seconds left in the first half. Like, literally, it's terrible. Who calls this crap? Like, I don't understand it. Dad, continue. Sorry.
Andrew just said, remember when we were in the offseason, we were talking about Mac, right? We said the guy's a precision passer. The reason why this was supposed to be better this year was they were supposed to be getting him receivers that were going to be where they were supposed to be when they were supposed to be there. And they have gone worse. They are not as good as the receiving core that Cam had, that Cam couldn't even count on those guys, but at least he could improvise. They could get yak. Is like, you get open, I'll get something over there. It was more of a schoolyard ball. Mac has to have a guy where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be effective. And he ain't getting that.
I don't know.
He can't get his line to block for him. His guys won't run the right routes. They run into each other. Why would he think he could? I mean, if I were him, I'd be like, here you go, Bailey. You go deal with this mess. I'm going to go watch from the sidelines and laugh.
Damn, if Cam had this receiving core, they might have won 10 games. I got to be honest with you. Like, I don't know about that, Mike. Like, who do you have? Demir Bird and Myers? That was about it. Like, it's geez.
It probably would help if 84 was on the field every once in a while.
Oh,
I know he pissed off the coaches. I get that, okay? But he played 11 plays.
Don't get me started. I clearly am pissed off about that.
Thornton played 90% of the snaps. And I think down the road, Thornton's going to be probably a pretty good player.
And he got 11 of them right.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know. The Bourne thing, the fact that they call stupid plays, put stupid people in stupid positions, and don't play their talent just makes me, it is what makes me more mad about this coaching staff than anything. Like, they have players and they don't put them on the field, and I don't understand it.
Well, guys, not to beat a dead horse here, but
horse is dead. Let's keep kicking it.
Bring a finer point to it. The reason the Patriots culture has atrophied is because some point a few years ago, really when he wouldn't give Tom Brady the contract, Bill Belichick's mantra of we put everyone does their job so we're in position to win is hypocritical. They do not make to put people in the best position to win. And when your organization is incongruent, what you do does not match what you say.
That's right.
You develop a toxic culture, and you see it every week. And we could sit here and do like a deep dive, and we could find all sorts of examples. And I literally, for the life of me, cannot figure out, other than the fact he's old and he wants to do things his way, what in the world Bill Belichick is doing. Like, I'd like to think he and Kraft could have a hard conversation, and that he could go get Bill O'Brien and move Judge to special teams and bring back Flores or name Gerard Mayo the DC. But how in the world at this point could we believe that Belichick's going to do any of that?
He's not. So here's the deal. I think you and I talked about it Sunday. Everybody on this show wants Belichick gone. The majority of it's as crazy as that is to say, right? Like as I say that, I'm like, that's just crazy. I'm gonna hot take it because I said it to this group, and I know there's people out there that believe it, and it's our pod. We can say it. I mean, some people might think I'm stupid. I think if you take away Brady, and I legitimately mean this, and I'd love to hear opposite conversation. I think if you take Brady away, he doesn't have any championships. Maybe one in 2001 because his defense was that good. But although Brady did a ton in that Super Bowl to manage the game and played pretty well, I could probably argue Bledsoe could have done the same thing. But I think you take away, he's got 2 championships at that point. One as a defensive coordinator, and one maybe as the Patriots head coach, and that's it. I mean, here's the reality. I'm a numbers guy. When I look at the numbers and his record with Brady and without Brady, it doesn't lie. He was bad when he was the Browns head coach. He was bad. He's bad now when he doesn't have Brady, maybe because he's older. But the reality is, I think Brady made this whole thing work. And I don't think it's even a mix of the two of them. I think it's Brady. I think you take Brady away from this whole thing. And we did not live the 20 years that we just lived. Like, I don't think I don't argue, honestly. I don't think he's the greatest coach of all time. Greatest defensive coordinator? Sure. I'll give him that. He might be the greatest defensive coordinator of all time. He can run a great defense. Head coach? Not a chance. GM? Hell no. Don't even get me started on that. Not even close. So that's my thought on it. And I'm with you, Andrew.
I disagree with you.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't disagree more.
Go ahead.
Because the reason we're sitting here today and having the conversation we're having and our minds are blown and we're like, what are we watching? Is because he was that great. Like, this man built a culture in the NFL that you have never seen. Yeah, honestly, no other team has had a culture this tight. Like, yes, Tom Brady helped, of course, but Tom Brady wouldn't have been the quarterback he was without Bill Belichick. It just doesn't work. Like, he built defenses, he built game plans. They built a culture that was impenetrable, even when they had bad seasons. Like, the bad seasons were like 12-4 and blow a game in the playoffs. They meant what they said. Do your job, take care of every small detail. Don't get sentimentally attached to people or plays. Get rid of them a year early instead of a year late. Like, Belichick has to get credit for that. And I do think that was a huge part of why they were so successful when they won. You can't have it both ways. Like, we can't go back now and say, oh, he's actually overrated. No, we say, oh my God, what's happened over the last really 2 years? Because Mike, you made a great point in the BSJ chats this week. Everybody loves to crap on the Cam year. And I get it. Cam would throw worm burners. That team had an identity, and they actually were in games because they executed, I can't remember the article you sent this week, Mike, that Bill Polian wrote, but like critical execution or whatever it was. Like, the Cam teams actually outperformed what they should have done.
That's right. It's
really just the last 2 years that this team has atrophied. Like, the culture is atrophied and the product shows them on the field. But I don't think you can go back and I don't think you can rewrite Belichick's history and then still have the moment here to be like, oh my gosh, what are we watching?
And look, 2008, they still were 11 and whatever, and Brady didn't play more than a handful of snaps, right? And that team was way better than that. And so I'll say it falls somewhere in between. I think if Brady never comes along, he probably produces some really good other players, and maybe he delivers, a Garoppolo type or one of those. I don't know. There's no doubt Brady's the greatest of all time. I think his crew, his staff, his folks built that and delivered that and mentored that and grew that. And, I say that with people like Andrew here, who works really hard to grow and mentor great people. So, and as do you, Mike, right? So you guys are all great at it, and you're doing that, right? You're taking clay and making great stuff out of clay. So
yeah, I guess I struggle. The struggle I have is if it were
you are coach every year, right? So
the struggle I have is if it were all, and you're right, you can't go back and rewrite history. I agree with that. The problem I have is that Brady took the same culture to Tampa and won a Super Bowl in his first year.
Yeah, but that team was ready to go. All they needed was a quarterback. They had everything else ready.
Yeah, but if we're talking culture, it's not just about a quarterback. I mean, there are a lot of teams in the NFL that have a quarterback that don't win a Super Bowl. Like Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Like, literally, what I'm saying is he took the culture and transferred it over.
No, but I think you're missing the point. That's what is so fascinating about this as a historical moment in, like, thinking about Patriots, thinking about Belichick, is that something fundamentally changed in Bill Belichick's approach.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that he just didn't want to pay attention to the details the same way, or he wanted to have people around him, players around him he liked. That's been well talked about and written. Brady has not changed, like, to the point that the man got a divorce.
True. Yeah, you're right.
Not changed. And like,
that's
Belichick changed.
That's good.
He changed. And everybody changes. People are dynamic. I don't hold that against him. But as an owner of a sports franchise and as a fan base, like, I've had enough of this.
Yeah.
Like, he either has to choose to get it back.
I agree.
Or it's time for the next chapter to be written. Because
Bill Belichick himself, when he was asked about Marv Levy, he's like, I would never coach until I'm 70, right? Remember that? It's like, this is a young man's game. What happened, Bill?
Yeah.
You're right. It's a young man's game. You are absolutely 100% right again.
So that's a great point. Let me ask this question, because this is Andrew and I talked about this Sunday, and he was talking about, and Mike, you brought it up a couple times, which is a great thing to discuss. So Jonathan takes the team, or all right, so let me back up. So Robert's still the owner of the team. Jonathan is apologizing like you're talking about. The year end, they lose out. Okay, I wish Kyler Murray wouldn't have gotten hurt and they would have been able to have been embarrassed by that team, but it didn't happen. So they lose out, don't make the playoffs. The embarrassing, this happens. Everything is disaster. I don't think, and I brought this example up to Andrew. It's the only one I could think of. We talk a lot about the Tom Landry Cowboys, or you compare Bill Walsh and the 49. There's a lot of comparisons to like great coaches that got let go late in their careers. Landry's probably the best example. The difference I see personally between a guy like Robert Kraft and a guy like Jerry Jones is they're very different. Jerry Jones doesn't give a crap about anybody. Like Jerry Jones will go in and do what Jerry Jones is going to do because he's going to do it, and you're not going to tell him anything. He's the owner of the team, the GM. That's just his mantra. It always has been. You guys probably remember better than Andrew and I do we definitely do, when he fired Tom Landry. Did it go well for him there at first? He got all the shit in the world about firing Tom Landry. It's Tom freaking Landry. He doesn't care. I don't think Robert Kraft has it in him to fire Bill Belichick. Like, I think to fire Bill Belichick, I don't think he can handle that. Like, to your point, Mike, you brought up a lot. In my opinion, Jonathan has to be able to do that. He's not going to take the team for a few years. I think we're stuck with this mess for the next 4 or 5 years, or however long Bill wants to coach. Kraft can't do it. He doesn't have it in him. He's not that type of guy.
Tell Bill, go take that dream job. Go coach Navy. Finish out your career over there. Take the job your dad did, because you're not coaching here next year.
I don't think he can, Mike.
Go take that job now.
He's not that. What are you showing
Navy.
us, Dad?
Navy.
Dad, Bill, Dad, what do you think?
I mean, I think, let me just ask you guys your opinion on this, because you guys, work in this in business and things like that, of building cultures and all that. So if an employee in Kraft's business, not the Patriots, but in the paper industry, when he made all his money, was performing like Belichick and this coaching staff,
it depends on
would they be okay with that?
No, but it depends on the So let me give you an example we watched yesterday. You show me a world where that AD at Colorado is going to walk in and fire Deion Sanders based on the power dynamic you watched. Yep. Who has all the power in the room? And what I'm telling you is Kraft might be the owner of the team. Bill Belichick has all the power in the room. It's a flipped dynamic. You have to have a certain personality to keep the dynamic the proper way. That's the Jerry Jones example. Tom Landry, I don't care you're Tom Landry. I'm Jerry Jones. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I don't think Kraft has that in him. He doesn't have that dog in him like Jerry has to go in and do that.
Brought the Patriots from a $300 million team to a $3 billion team. Don't you think Kraft is going to listen to Bill until something totally happens?
Yes.
I do not see Bill Belichick getting fired. I'm sorry.
I agree.
I don't see it.
But
he
Bill,
won't.
now it's not a $3 million team anymore. Now it's a $2.5 billion team.
I understand that. But my biggest fear is that next year we have the exact same shit show that we have this year, minus Mayo and minus who's the offensive coach that they've passed over several times.
Haley.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's my biggest fear. Belichick does not bring people in. Belichick does not bring people in from the outside. Yeah. So if those two leave, who's taking those slots? Patricia?
Stevie Jr.?
But and I guess this is a defense of Belichick as well, and the 20 years that he's put in there. I mean, he was the CEO of the most successful sports, probably dynasty that we've seen.
Agreed.
Okay. And during all that time, he made the hard decisions. He was more prepared than anybody. His coaches, he had great coaches around him. Okay. He had a great staff around him. So as this is okay, and Brady was part of that culture. He was an integral part of that culture, right? I don't know that he was the be all and end all winning all those championships, but he was a huge part of that culture, as was Brewski and those other guys who got this thing going. The last 4 years, and to everybody's point, I think he's gotten older. He's become more comfortable. Again, I think Bedard has said it a million times. He wants guys around him that don't question him. And I think, to Bill Donovan's point, we could easily see the same thing happen again next year, because I'd like to think that this bothers Belichick enough that he will make some changes from his office, even if they keep him as the head coach. I'd like to think that, because I don't think he can look at this and think this was successful. I mean, I just don't.
No, he can't.
I think this is a fascinating conversation. And I think there's some nuance here that, most people wouldn't think about with the NFL, or if you were in a fan board, like in the BSJ chat, like good luck finding this kind of nuance, but we have it here. And I think it's all of these things combined. I mean, a few thoughts. One, Mike, I know you love Jerry Jones.
I do not love Jerry Jones.
He is
it's just an example.
Not afraid to make hard decisions. He's a very good businessman. He's made a lot of money. Jerry Jones isn't half the leader that Bob Kraft is. If you define leadership as a steady hand with a vision and the ability to put people in position to go do their job and be great. Jerry steps on people's toes all the time. It does not work.
Absolutely right.
Jerry has an ego the size of Texas.
That's the point.
And I'll tell you what will keep you from being great. You'll be really good. Dallas has been really good, except for the first 3 years. But what did Jerry's ego get? What happened to Jerry's ego when it came to Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, he made a stupid ass decision.
Super Bowls too. Yeah. Bob Kraft's no dummy. He's a great leader. He knows how to set a vision. He knows how to have a hard conversation. He knows how to put people in position. I think what's going to happen, based on what we're reading, what we're hearing, Kraft is not happy. Belichick doesn't seem happy, to be honest. I think Belichick's a really smart guy. I think he understands I made a mistake. Kraft and Belichick are going to go on a yacht somewhere warm probably, and sit down and say, how did we get here? And Kraft's going to want answers. And what he's going to be looking for is, does Bill still have it? Like, because what leadership is you can be honest about the current reality and you can make choices to create change. And I think he's probably at a point where if Bill can't say to him, here's how we got here, here's my role in it, here's what we're going to do about it, then it's not going to be a firing. They're going to come out of that meeting and you're going to have, Bill's going to get traded, or Bill's going to step away, or whatever it is. Yeah. And because this isn't going to be an ego decision. Like, this is going to be are we still alive? Like, do we still want the same thing? And do we have the leadership and courage to actually go do something about it? This is where I think it's fascinating, because Bill has either completely lost his fastball or, and this, Mike Davis, you've been saying this for a long time, and I completely agree with you. I think part of what is going to have to happen in that conversation is that people are going to have to go. People Bill is not going to want to let go. Right. Maybe Steve goes and coaches Navy, to be honest with you.
Hey.
Let's set Steve up with the head coaching job at Navy and give everybody an out here. But Bill's not what I imagine is going to happen is Bill's not going to want to make those changes.
Yeah. No,
and then Bob Kraft is going to be met with the leadership decision. And Mike Davis, this is where I disagree with you. I've had enough nepotism in this Patriots organization. I mean, maybe Jonathan Kraft is the next great thing. Jonathan Kraft has not had to be in charge of anything in his lifetime. He is the next in command for his dad. I need Bob Kraft to make this decision. I don't need Jonathan Kraft, because what I'm worried about is Jonathan's going to overstep, and then we're going to go into a 10-year spin.
Jerry Jones.
It's worse than the 3 years we've just had. I just need Bob Kraft and Bill Belichick to take a long, hard look at this and be honest about what they have and what they want, and is this marriage going to actually work? I don't know where they'll land. I mean, I am with you all. Like, I just don't see how it works. Like, this thing is the absolute.
I'm just saying, Andrew, the Bill Belichick that built the culture you're talking about, Bill Belichick of 2012 would fire Bill Belichick of 2022, and he wouldn't let him finish the season.
Yeah, year early, right?
Right.
Not a year
right.
late.
Right.
That's exactly right.
That's right. Dad, go ahead.
I would say this, that I think there is going to be a difficult conversation with Kraft and Belichick. And I think, to Andrew's point, it's going to be done somewhere that we're just the two of them are talking. And I think when he tells Belichick that I want answers and this can't continue and we need to change some things, I think it's going to go one of two ways. Belichick's going to say, you know what? I took you to 9 Super Bowls. I won 6. I think I've kind of, I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to fire the guys that I want to, that I've hired. And if that's not going to work for you, then fire me. But I don't think Kraft wants to do that. I think he wants for there to be a honorable way out for Belichick if in fact they're going to make a change.
I would hope Bill doesn't pull that type of power play in that conversation.
I mean, I think.
Oh, yes, he will.
I mean, no, he might, but I think the way it could, and this is where I leave the door open. I mean, I don't think Belichick really wants to do this anymore in the way he did in 2012.
That's fair.
Point. But if we're flies on the wall in that conversation, Kraft frames it the way he just did, Dad, which I think is probably how he would, as a very successful businessman who has a steady hand. What he wants to hear from Bill, and I think Bill might say is, you're right. Like, this isn't good enough and this isn't right. So here's what I think I'm going to do. I've already talked to Bill O'Brien. He's going to join us in April before the draft, and he's going to be the offensive coordinator. Whether it's Steve or Gerard, one of them is going to become the defensive coordinator so that accountability is clear. Joe Judge is going to be a special teams coach, and I'm going to move Matt Patricia may coach the offensive line, or he may be back up in the box, whatever it is.
Or back to Detroit.
But to Bill Donovan's point, I think Belichick's earned the right to not have to make one of the guys he likes a scapegoat. Like he's earned that. But and then Kraft's going to listen to that and say, does that meet my threshold for what I think would be the kind of change that would make me think, okay, we're not continuing down the same path. You're really willing to make some hard decisions, Bill. And if he is, then maybe they run it back. But running it back with Bill O'Brien, Joe Judge, and an actual defensive coordinator so that Bill Belichick, by the way, can do his job is very different than what they have right now. Right. And might be better than hiring some hotshot young guy who's going to end up being the next coming of like Matt LaFleur, which great. Like, look at how the Packers have bottomed out and he hadn't won crap. Like,
or Kingsbury.
This is where we got to not be reactionary, guys. Like,
I agree.
Change has to happen, and change needs to be
Wait a minute. Weren't you the guy that told me you wanted Lincoln Riley 3 weeks ago? Hold on a second. Wait a minute.
I mean, we start talking Sean Payton, Lincoln Riley, Brian Flores. Like, my ears start burning.
Come on now.
But here's the other thing, right? Bob Kraft's a successful billionaire for a reason. You better believe when Bob Kraft goes into that conversation with Bill Belichick, he's already thought through 3 or 4 scenarios. Either Bill and I get into a pissing contest. Bill tells me enough change that I say, yeah, I trust you. You've been good to me for 20 years. Okay. Or he's got 3 other people he already has in mind and probably has already had conversations behind the scenes that he knows he's pivoting to if he's got to make the hardest decision of his Patriots career.
And what I'm most hoping for is, if it doesn't get the way he wants, he says, Bill, I got good news for you. I just traded you to Carolina for a first-round draft pick.
There you go. Go ahead, Dad.
In reading Bedard, one of the things that he always kind of goes back to is that one of the difficulties coaching with Belichick, and it has been for years, is he doesn't communicate. So, the fact that we'd love for him to get Bill O'Brien. Maybe he's already reached out to O'Brien. In what I've read from Bedard, that's probably not the case, because that's not how he does things. And that kind of concerns me too, because I think you can't go into at the end of the season, if they don't make the playoffs, you better have a plan before, when it comes time, instead of just not telling anybody anything, and all of a sudden, what are we going to do?
Do it now while there's still viable coaches out there, while people are getting, while folks are being let go. You have to know what you want to do on the last day of the season. You don't have to start that process then. Folks are going to start dropping off the boards. People are going to get hired by colleges. Folks are going to get sucked into staffs. You're not going to be able to put your best staff together if you can't do that.
Yeah, that's all true. I'll say this, and then we need to wrap up and do some predictions about the oncoming game tomorrow against Cincinnati. That I'm sure will go strikingly well. Andrew, I think you might have a shock for us in that game, based on what we talked about, unless that's switched. But I just hope, don't forget, Andrew, never forget that Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft are really good friends. So hopefully he doesn't reach out to him for advice before he talks to Bill. Well, hey, Jerry, what would you do here?
NFL ownership is
I know.
richest social club in the United States, and that's why they all hate Daniel Snyder.
You're right.
They've all got a great deal, and then this guy goes and runs amok, and he gets all this attention and drags them through the mud, and they're like, "We got to get rid of this guy. He's messing up our vibe, our flow." You better believe they're buddies.
That's awesome. All right, let's go. Let's on to Cincinnati. Prediction. So they say on to Cincinnati. Great discussion, by the way. That was awesome. So I really appreciate everybody diving into that for sure. Cincinnati tomorrow, 12 noon my time, 1 p.m. your time. Let's go. I mean, let's just go around the horn, man. Let us know what you think. I don't care who starts. I'm just going to leave it open. Whoever wants to jump in,
go for it. 2 predictions for you. Number 1, the Patriots will outscore the Jets from last night.
Ooh, wow, they're bad. Ooh.
And number 2, Bailey Zappi will get into the game and play.
All right. By the way, I always forget to do this. Cincinnati in Foxborough, Bengals 3-point favorites, and the total 41.5. Yeah, Bill, that was my reaction. Wait a minute. What? 3-point favorites on the road, 41.5.
6 point. That's a 6-point swing from your average line.
Yeah, but that's not a lot.
No, it's Patriots continue
less than a touchdown.
Patriots continue to get.
Patriots just went through.
They continue to get the Belichick love, man. That's what that is. That's exactly what that is. Yep. All right.
Wow. Jamar Chase is still running. He's still scoring touchdowns at 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah, nobody's going to guard him. Although 2 weeks ago we brought up the fact that Jefferson and Diggs had what they had done to them, and now in I think back-to-back weeks they've taken away the number 1 receiver. So, which is interesting to me that they changed that. So, might be the problem is, Dad, when you guard Chase, Higgins and Boyd are still out there.
Sure.
So, and Burrow can still run, by the way.
Mike and Dad put a score on it. What you got tomorrow?
Oh, geez.
I got 38-13.
Woo! Beat down
Bengals.
I'd love that.
Because I think the Patriots, it's going to come off the rails tomorrow.
Dad, if that happens, I'm making $1 million tomorrow off of your prediction on DraftKings. Just telling you right now. Go ahead.
Mike Davis.
24-13. 30-13.
Ooh, another beatdown. Love it.
Bill. What you got?
30-6. I don't think the Patriots score a touchdown.
Ooh, boy. Man, this is.
I'll go next. Mike, I'll let you bring up the rear. I mean,
home dog, NFL. Is that where you're going here?
No, I think it's deeper than that. I mean, I think tomorrow's going to tell us a lot. We may already know the answer, to be fair. If it goes the way Dad, Mike, and Bill just said, then, we should trust our eyes. We've seen it. I think this team is not always focused and they're sloppy. If this wasn't their best week of practice in the last 3 years, I will be absolutely shocked. I mean, if you're a professional athlete, you're embarrassed by what happened at the end of that last game, starting with Ramondre and Jacoby. I mean, Jacoby was, and, he took accountability. He said, that was my fault at the end of the play. I just think, they may not have enough to beat the Bengals. I think the Bengals are very good and really talented, but I think you'll see a pretty spirited effort for the first 2/3 of this game, half to 2/3. And I think it's a game. I don't think the Patriots have enough firepower to win, if I'm being honest, but I think it'll be a close game. I'll say Bengals 27-21. And I think it won't shock me if somehow the Patriots win this game, because that would actually flow with this is a disaster.
Oh my God. And that
Then we're going to go
week even
eight, nine,
With this, Patricia and Judge it back.
10. Yeah, we're about to go, guys. We're about to go 10-7. Lose the draft pick, keep Belichick, and still not be able to overtake the Chargers or the Dolphins for the last playoff spot. Just let that image behind you sink in for a minute. 10-7, keep everything stays the same, and you still don't make the play.
And Mike loses
that dumpster fire.
Mike loses his bet because he's got it under 9.
I'm totally safe with the under.
Let me give you a real quick tidbit before Mike makes his prediction. So the Bengals have 5 guys that start on defense that I coached against in high school, out of our area in Greensboro, High Point, and Winston-Salem, which I think is pretty
That's
cool.
cool. That's really cool.
That's 4 of them started in the Super Bowl last year.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's really cool. All right, here's my prediction. Let me read you the list of quarterbacks we've beat this year and teams. Let me start with that. So week 1, lose to the Dolphins and Tua, and we know their team. Week 2, we beat Mitchell Trubisky and the Steelers. Week 3, we get boat raced by Lamar Jackson. Week 4, we lose to Aaron Rodgers. Week 5, we beat Jacoby Brissett. Week 6, we all know what happened on Monday Night Football with Justin Fields. Week 7, we beat Zach Wilson. Week 8, we beat Sam Ehlinger. Week 9, we beat Zach Wilson. Week 10, we lose to Kirk Cousins. Week 11, we lose to Josh Allen. Week 12, we beat Colt McCoy. And last week, we lose to Derek Carr. I see a trend here that is going to continue. We don't play well against good quarterbacks. And I would argue that Joe Burrow.
Competent quarterbacks.
Exactly. Forget good ones. And I would argue there's one not better. Maybe I'd put Mahomes better probably, but Joe Burrow's pretty damn good. And their receiving core is pretty good. And I think our defense is a paper tiger. I've said it all year, and I don't think it's as good as what it is. I think you've seen them beat up really bad quarterbacks and really bad receiving cores and really bad coaches. And I do think, to Andrew's point, I think it'll remain sluggish and close early and then turn up late really bad. And so I would say, I'd say you're probably looking at like a 41-17, 41-21 type of game where we score late. Zappy comes in late because it doesn't matter anymore. They score some cheap points and it stays early. It stays good early. And then just Burrow, he's Burrow, man. And you can't stop him. So that's what I see personally. The only thing that could change that, he has that line sometimes gives up a lot of sacks, and God forbid they drop Matt Judon into coverage tomorrow, Mike. But if they actually bring some pressure on him, I could see that being a problem, but I just think they'll find a way to overcome it. And all Burrow has to do is throw the ball up. One-on-one, man-to-man coverage, our corners can't do anything about that. So that's what I would say.
I was listening to NFL radio, and they were talking about when he gets sacked 7 or more times, they lose. But when he gets sacked between 3 and 6 times, they're undefeated. Crazy.
Yep.
How many quarterbacks can get sacked 6 times in a game and win consistently?
That's crazy. By the way, if I see Matt Judon in coverage tomorrow, one time, I don't know. I'm not going to say what I'm going to do, but literally.
They had the remote.
Shoot us a text.
All right, boys. That was fun, man. That was awesome. Hey, happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays, guys.
Enjoy the game.
Everyone.
Better.
We'll see you next week.
Better and have a great holiday.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
See you guys.